Hi, it's Shannon here from houseimprovements.com, and we're back at the cabin build today, and we're to the point of starting to put up some of the trusses. So the other day, if you see way in the background, you can see we already started from one end of the building, but today we're going to start from this end, just so you can see how everything starts and goes from there. Typically you'd want to just start at one end and work your way all the way to the opposite. The first rafter we're going to put up, or truss we're going to put up, is the very end gable one. So it'll sit on this end wall across here, and I already sheeted most of it just so it's less hassle holding these sheets up and nailing them on up in the air. We left the very top, I don't know if you can see it from your angle, you'll see it in a few minutes. We left the top little chunk off so that we can have an area to strap to and lift it up with the telehandler. So in my case, what I normally like to do, if you zoom in way up on the top plate of the wall, right basically where the top of the house wrap is the top of the sheeting on the wall, and there's about an inch of top plate sticking up still. So on this end rafter, I leave my plywood, my OSB in this case, sticking down 7/8 of an inch. So when we set that all down in there, that'll nest together, and that way I can nail into the actual top plate of the wall as well, just to make it more secure. So in a few minutes we'll stand this truss up and slide it over and get it hooked on the machine. But before we have the machine running and the noise and everything, we've also got a tag line attached on each end. So once we have this up in the air and swinging around, we can control it. It's not really windy today, but it's always a good idea to have at least one tag line on. We're going to put one on each end. It just gives us a little more control. So we'll end up lifting the truss up, swinging it, and then booming it out and getting it set in place. And we'll have some shots from the inside and outside showing you how that all goes. And after that, it's just a matter of keeping on moving with each truss. Okay, just hang on. Okay. So it just takes a little bit of maneuvering to get it into place here. We've got kind of tight quarters for the machine. Yeah. Yes? Yes?
No, I just was asking Dave if he could see.
Oh, okay. So we can extend out now. So now I've got it at a point where I can get my hands on it. I threw my rope outside. Okay, so I've got it roughly sitting in the right spot. Just take a little bit of manipulating to get it sitting down where it needs to sit. Okay. Okay, so that's sat down where we want it to be. I just need to slide the truss one way or the other. Okay, so we've got the truss sitting down now where it needs to kind of sit as far as this direction, but I need to slide it back to the end of my plate. Actually, my plate's a little bit short here, but this end here needs to be the flush with the outside of my wall. I'm lining all the trusses up with this wall because I've got it straight. Well, I've got all the walls straight, but that's my guideline. So I'm going to see, I don't know if I have enough slack. You're gonna have to, no, I think if you just pull back. It's coming. Okay. Let's take a little bit of the slack up. Okay, so we've got the wall flush with the end of the plate. Okay, so I've got that sitting there. We've got the machine still holding the weight. And I'm gonna nail that plywood, slide this in and nail that plywood. So as well as stitching that plywood to that top plate, I can toenail some nails through the bottom cord of the truss into the top plate. So you can see how we had those uprights just to give us a little bit of balance, just in case we got too much slack in the rope. It couldn't flip outwards, and it helped line us up on that outside too. So I'm gonna go do the same thing on the far end, and then we're gonna get this end plumb. I'll go to the center and we'll get it plumb, and then we'll put a brace back actually to this tree. And we will do that all the way along eventually, but for right now that'll be enough to hold it where we need it. So I'm gonna go up to the middle and get the level on that, and I'll try to hold it where it needs to be. But before I do that, we'll get that brace screwed on up top. Yeah, that should be good there. Go to the other side again, or is that better on the opposite? Is that the side you want it on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you want.
Okay, you have a drill and a screw ready? Is the bottom, does the bottom look like it's pushed in all the way? No, I mean on the wall, on the bottom of this rafter.
No, not quite.
Okay. I'll see if I can pull it in. Maybe I should come out and nail that at least right there, just to be sure. So I'm just going to nail that bottom edge in the middle to make sure that it's over right tight before I try to plumb it up. Actually, I'll I'm gonna put my ladder right on it, so my weight will help move it over. Because I'm a fat guy. Right there. That's good, thanks. So now we've got this plumb and we've got it braced to the outside and attached to that tree with an angle brace. So this is nice and sturdy here now, so. He's gonna let the forks down and then I can unhook the strap. Good. Okay, so we've got the trusses all laying up there, so we're gonna bring 4 or 5 down and lean them against the wall here. And then they're just quicker and easier to get hooked up. So these particular trusses are 30-foot span. They're a 412 pitch. And these ones without plywood weigh about 135 pounds. We'll bring one more and we'll put it right on the fork. Now, you'll be able to shimmy over, or?
Yeah, well, I got it leaned over.
Okay.
I never straightened it back up. If you will give me marks.
Yeah, you should have them. They are there. Maybe you just can't see them today. Do you want them in marker?
No, I can see them. No, I look. This makes it easier when trying to line things up.
Yeah.
Try holding the tag line kind of all over the place anyways.
We'll throw those tag lines back on. Okay, so we got a few in place. They're just putting the tag lines on. Now that we don't have plywood, we can just loop it through the end and hook it on there. It's a little simpler. We're working with basically a skeleton crew. Ideally, I'd like to have 2 more people, but what I have is what I have, so we're making it work.
Any more retired guys?
Yeah, I can't find any more retired guys. But no, we'll put this one up. So these blocks here, our rafters are 2 foot on center, and these blocks here basically should be 22.5 inches between them, except for the first one, it'll be 3/4 of an inch less. So 22.5 mathematically is the right distance. I usually go a 1/16 less because it doesn't matter what you do, you always seem to gain a little bit along the way. So, and I just nail them on here. I used to always nail them on up at the peak, but you've got these metal gussets in the way then, and they're a pain to nail through. You never know if all your nails actually penetrated or if they just bent over. So I've started putting them down here a little bit lower. It's just a spacer so that the next truss has something to go against. Yeah. Yeah, this way, right? We're gonna swing the opposite way this time. Okay, I think we're ready to swing. Okay. And of course, before we did any of this, I straightened all the walls. I think I mentioned that before. I marked out all my 2-foot centers on top of the wall plates and got as much prepared as possible ahead of time. And I always like to use the same wall to line all the ends of my trusses up. Now if you have 2 people, you just have obviously a person on each wall, and this is a lot less up and down, but I don't have that luxury. So I can just get the heel flush. I'm sure you can't see it, but every one of these, the heel will be flush on the outside of my plate. That's how mine's set up to be. So I toe nailed down there. We'll be putting hurricane anchors on for the final securement, but I just toe nail it for now. Now I've got a block here that I can get, spacer block I can nail on. Okay, I'll just get my blocking nailed. Okay, I'm going to take the strap off. So we're probably going to put another 2 or 3 up here just to get this a little more solid. And then we're going to put the gable ladders on. So basically that's the part that gives us the overhang out here on the gable. And it's already pre-made by the truss manufacturer. And it sits on top of this outer gable that we put on first because it's lower. It's actually, the top of it is at this height. And then the 2x4 ladder parts come right over against the inside of this truss. But we'll get a couple more on here. It'll just get a little more rigid before we go messing with that. So just a little bit of rinse and repeat here for a couple minutes. Yeah. That's about where I want to be, yeah. Okay, so we've got, what do we have? We're over 12 feet with our rafters now, with our trusses. And I want to start getting some of the permanent bracing on. As you noticed, as we went today, we weren't using any bracing as we were standing them up. Everything was standing nice, and by using that block up there, that kind of helped secure everything. Plus we had the very last rafter secured to the tree and plumb and everything, so that just gave us some extra security. But if you're finding that things are too wobbly for your liking, you can put some temporary bracing on as you go. Just tack a screw or a nail or whatever in it, and like use 2x4s, and then you can just take it off after. But we were able to work along without doing any temporary stuff, and now it's time to put in the permanent bracing. So on this roof, what I'm doing is I'm coming over, I think it's 4.5 feet from center with a straight perpendicular row, perpendicular to the trusses. And it'll get nailed on the top of the bottom cord on each truss, starting with the very far gable truss. And I marked it out on the sides. I don't know if you can see the marks, but I did lay it out 24 inches on center from that end. So as long as I'm nailed on that end truss where I want to be, and I'm perpendicular, I can manipulate these rafters over to those. I keep saying rafters, but they're really trusses. I can keep manipulating this bottom cord over to each one of those marks, and I'll be putting two framing nails into each one. So that does a couple things. That gets these more sturdy, so they're not so wobbly like noodles, and it gets them to the proper spacing, so when it comes time for drywalling and finishing inside, everything's, should be pretty darn close to our 2 feet on center. Okay, so we're going to have a perpendicular brace 4 to 5 feet each side of center on this particular roof. We got a 30-foot span total, so those will be those 2 rows. We're going to have this piece here, I don't know if you can really see it, but it's going to go up on an angle right to the very outside up there and get nailed on the side of the king post on all these trusses. So all this bracing, once it's all together, just gives this whole roof system a lot more rigidity. And then of course when the sheeting goes on, that helps as well. So this is an angled one right down the middle. Okay, we've got our two perpendicular ones, and then you can see over on that side, I'm going to have one, you can see that it's on an angle like that. So the idea of that one is I want it to go all the way to that outside gable that we put up first and get attached. And then I want this end closest to you, to the camera, I want it nailed out on that end of that rafter. Closest to the wall the better, because that's where that rafter is already secured. And then every rafter or every truss bottom will get nailed into that as I go. Of course, all these angled ones, I've got to cut that end of the 2x4 that's butting up to the first truss on a bit of an angle so I can get nailed in properly. And I'm just going to eyeball that. There's no real science to that, but so I usually just slide those in, get it close, eyeball a pencil mark, and cut them off. So again, every one of these will be 2 nails into every rafter that we're going past, and as a unit this will just solid everything up a lot better. Now so I'm 12 feet to here, to this truss, and I guess these must be 14 footers. So obviously if your building's longer than these braces, you need to keep adding pieces to it, right? So what you want to do is you want to overlap. Like if I've got another one sitting here going to that end of the building, I want to overlap 2 rafters, 2 trusses. I don't want to just butt them together and nail them on the same truss. I want to actually run this one by and nail it back on this other one too, as well as here, and then continue on. That just makes it stronger. So we've got actually a 12-foot gap here that we still have to fill trusses in. So there'll be, you know, another 16-footer, I guess, is what it will take if I want to do it in one piece to join this together. If the camera spins around just behind itself, you can see the bracing all installed on the other side already. So that might give you a little more sense of what I did. So on those angled braces, as I'm nailing them to the rafters, I'm just measuring 24 inches on center, rafter to rafter, and as I go, and then nailing it. On the perpendicular ones I can mark it out because I know exactly what that measurement's going to be, but on the angle, I guess mathematically I could figure it out, but I don't want to. Okay, like usual on this cabin project, the rain has settled in on us and it's preventing us from probably going too much further here. It's getting slippery climbing around up here. Our plan was to put this ladder up because it was in an awkward position and show you when we did the other one, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that with the rain. So I'm just going to explain to you what we did and wrap things up. So we'll insert here a picture of the ladder laying on the ground so you kind of know what we're looking at, because I don't think we really showed them too much. So that's all consists of this 2x4, these 2x4s, and that 2x6 wood fascia out there. So that's all one unit. So we lifted it up and it sits out on the outside truss, and then it butts to this second truss in and flush to the top. And it creates the overhang that we want. And it creates a stronger overhang than just building an overhang hanging off the outside of this wall. This is less likely to ever sag, where those other ones over time will sag when they're just added on. So we had to get it up here, flush. This manufacturer makes everything the same lengths as the top cord of the trusses. So it was easy enough once we had it up here finally, after struggling, we were able to get it flush to the center of the truss, flush down on the tail, and that lined up that area there. Then we were able to line up at the peak up there where we needed to be to get this square, because it was, you know, it was kind of about a square. And I fastened that. So we've got these two nailed together with two framing nails about every 16 inches. And then we toe nailed every one of these ladders into the top cord of that truss out there. And when we do the other half, it just basically will slide up the roof and butt into this one that we'd put in. So it's kind of letting up now, but everything's so slippery it's getting a little dangerous to walk around up here. So I think that's what we're going to end the video at. We will be putting hurricane anchors on as well, and that will be a separate video, so watch for that one, and as well as the rest of the fascia and all that. So keep watching for more videos. There's a lot more coming on this cabin build.